right, guys, welcome back to the channel for another Real Talk episode. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most common things that I get asked when people find out in my normal life, in my day job, my friends and family, when they realize I have a gun channel. The first thing they ask me is, "Hey, what gun should I buy?" Typically, if they're already into guns, it has to do more with ARs and rifles, and if they're like brand new to firearms, it's always about a pistol. That's not really the topic today. We're talking more so about the rifle side of that question because I had a customer recently ask me, "Hey, I want to build a do-it-all rifle. What do you recommend? How do you feel about this upper? How do you feel about this company?" And I just want to give you guys and have a discussion with you guys about what my recommendation to him was and the reason for that, and then we'll talk about the setup of my rifle that I recommended to him. First and foremost, thank you guys for stopping by the channel. If you guys like these videos, if you want to support me, you could like, comment, or subscribe. All three of those really help, guys, help the algorithm, and it costs nothing. Commenting, even if it's just talking shit, it still helps. So I appreciate every single one of you guys for doing that. Also, RDB10 will save you 10% off over at brownells.com. They are the biggest supporter of the channel, so big shout out to brownells.com. And then also RDB5 saves you 5% off at Downrange Thermal. They sell optics, night vision, mounts, thermal, obviously, and a bunch of other stuff. So go show those folks some love. I really appreciate it. Now, with that being said, I want to talk about kind of scope and just a little bit about where I'm coming from. So the best gun that you have is the gun that you have on you, right? Or the gun that you train with, the gun that you know well. So don't watch this and think you got to go out and change your whole setup. This is for a dude who was asking me, he wanted to build his first AR or he wanted to put together or buy his first AR. And what did I recommend for kind of a do-it-all type setup? Now, we all know that doesn't exist. The do-it-all setup does not exist. It's always compromise, right? Weight versus, recoil management, length versus velocity, especially the 5.56, so on and so forth. And there's so many different calibers out these days and so many weapons platforms. We are living in the golden age of firearms right now. There's so much good shit out there. And there's also a lot of bad stuff. So there's a lot of things that people need to wade through and kind of avoid too. But for the most part, if you're a gun company in 2024, like it's out there whether you're trash or you're good, right? So I want to give you guys my humble opinion about some products that I've used. Obviously, there's plenty of companies out there that I don't have experience with that I'm not going to recommend because I don't have experience with them, even though they've been recommended to me by other people. I'm going to talk about what I know. So right here in my hands, I'll step back so you guys can see what we're looking at here is the Geissele URGI. This is the 14.5 near clone upper receiver group sitting on a Daniel Defense lower. And the lower is just a regular mil-spec Daniel lower. There's nothing fancy about it whatsoever, except for the fact that I have a Geissele trigger in it and a Maritime bolt catch on it. Those are the only two upgrades. I guess Radiant selector as well. So I guess the only things that are mil-spec are the pins, the takedown pins, the mag release. But with that being said, the upper is really what I'm focusing on here because it's been my opinion for a long time. And until something happens, it's going to remain my opinion until I learn something new at least. And maybe you guys will inform me of something new, but the lower doesn't really matter. If it's a mil-spec lower, as long as it's made, forged, it's made by a good company, I don't really think there's not many moving parts in the lower receiver, right? You got your trigger, you got your selector, your magazine release. That's really it. So there's not much that can really fail on a lower receiver in terms of like, hey, I need to buy a Knights lower. Now, obviously, there's a whole other conversation to be had about ambidextrous lowers and whether you like that or not. I tend to like a fully ambidextrous bolt catch and bolt release so I can do weapon manipulation with remaining with my firing hand on the gun. So I do enjoy that. I don't use a ambidextrous magazine release because I'm right-handed, and the selector, it does help for shooting long range. I like to throw my thumb over on the right-hand side of the gun to shoot long range. So, but for the most part, lowers are not, they're kind of a non-issue to me. It's like, get whatever lower you want. Arrow lower's fine. Daniel lower's fine. Whatever. Buy a lower that works. From there, the upper receiver, I think, is obviously more important because you have your barrel. It's going to have to do with accuracy, harmonics, the longevity of the barrel is very important. The bolt carrier group as well. That's kind of the heart. I mean, right here where the barrel meets the BCG is kind of where all those little explosions are housed and where all the action is happening. This cycling right here. So, with that being said, I love the Geissele URGI system because number one, it's reliable and it's durable and it's accurate. I mean, that's really it. It comes with everything you need. So for like a new shooter who doesn't necessarily have all the tools to, whether it be to dimple a barrel and build their own upper receiver, where they don't have the right torque wrenches to install a barrel, something like that. For somebody who wants a plug and play solution, I love the URGI because it's just so simple, it's sleek, it's lightweight, and it's accurate, and it's durable. And so far, it's giving me no reason to not recommend it. Now, obviously, there's other options out there like this guy right here, which is on Brownells as well. This is the Daniel Defense. I believe they call this the SOCOM upper because it has that thick SOCOM profile barrel. I actually swapped the barrel out on this one for that new Sons of Liberty Gunworks barrel that has that new barrel profile. Kind of a long story, but I'm excited to try it out. So it's not truly a Block 2 barrel anymore. I still have that barrel, but in this one, it's actually Sons of Liberty. But there's other options out there that are great, like this guy, and I could, wholeheartedly, I could recommend this. Excuse me, this upper receiver. Like I can definitely recommend this to people and not lose sleep at night whatsoever because it's a great upper, even especially with rather that Daniel Defense barrel. I love that thing. Haven't even shot this thing yet with the Suns barrel, but that's neither here nor there. This thing, though, really for the weight, it just really surprised me how, with the weight, it really helps. When you add a suppressor on there, like once I put this SOCOM RC2 on that Daniel Defense, it's going to get pretty darn front heavy, especially once you add a light, you add a LPVO, you add all kinds of stuff to this thing. It starts to really get heavy. And again, hit the gym, right? But at the same time, I want to be able to fully kit out a rifle. And this isn't even including a bipod if I wanted to do some long range work with this. I could throw a QD on here and throw a bipod on here, and then it'd be even heavier up front. So that's the reason I lean towards the Geissele's, because the weight, and you don't really sacrifice anything in my eyes with the weight, right? Like obviously your rail is going to bend a little bit easier than a full blown quad rail is, but is it going to matter that much? Most people aren't running IR laser aiming modules. This Geissele has a freaking really nice lockup. It's very well known for its lockup. It also has these two tabs up here on the top here to stop it from rotating off the upper receiver, and these two tabs here on the bottom. So it's going to hold zero. Yeah, it may dent a little bit easier than a RIS 2. I mean, yeah, it will dent easier than a RIS 2 will, but everything will. And so there's trade-offs. But again, getting back away from into the nitty-gritty, like defending this thing has been phenomenal for me. Out to 700 yards with a 14.5 inch pin and weld. Again, another reason is the pin and weld. I know people go crazy over, I just made a video actually about how 16-inch guns are underrated. If you want to go 16-inch, great. I love my 16-inch rifle. I kind of turned that HK into my SPR. That's a conversation for another day. Turning that from like a more of a move and groove gun to more of a dedicated purpose-driven gun. But this thing, you lose an inch and a half of barrel length, but it really doesn't give up that much. But it does give you a little bit more leeway when you're running a suppressor indoors and whatnot. It gives you a little bit more maneuverability than a 16-inch gun, and you don't really give up that much as far as the velocity goes. So again, and also because it's a little bit shorter, that suppressor is not as far out on the front of the gun, so you're not feeling that weight as much because it's a little bit closer to your body. Now I'm 6'1", so people were commenting on that 16-inch gun video about how they're underrated. People were making a lot of comments about how, oh, I'm this tall, I'm that tall, I'm this tall. So a 16-inch gun is nothing to me because I'm really tall. I'm pretty tall compared to the average human. I'm 6'1". I'm not 6'7", but being 6'1" doesn't really, I mean, I don't know because I'm not 5'5", so I can't tell you from that guy's perspective. But to me, I mean, I don't think my height really makes that big of a difference. I think strength makes a big difference, endurance, but if you have a 16 or 18-inch gun with a fat ass can on the end, it's gonna fatigue you no matter how tall you are eventually. So I like the 14.5 because it seems to me to be like the best balance and the best of both worlds as far as having a short gun that is still maneuverable and a long gun that still can reach out and touch something and get better ballistic performance out of a 77 grain or something like that. Because if you're shooting at something, you want it to really hit. So with that being said, guys, let's talk a little bit about the setup, and then as I go through this, I'm sure I'll come up with more reasons for why I recommend this gun. Again, the biggest one is it's somewhat affordable. I love that it comes with a buffer weight and spring, so it's perfectly tuned for the gas block that is also pinned on here, which I love a pinned gas block. So I love that it comes like from the factory. This is the spring and weight you need. Throw it in the gun, drop it on a lower, and bang, bang, go to work. You know what I mean? I love that it's just plug and play. And for a new guy, that's important. Even for me and how long I've been building ARs, like it's nothing more frustrating when you put a build together and then all of a sudden it's not cycling reliably. I've had zero issues with this thing, with every type of ammunition I put through it. So again, I love it. So let's go from blast end to ass end, and we'll talk about the setup here. You guys have probably seen this on the channel before, but I've changed a few things, and some things are going to be changing about it in the future. So up here we have the Surefire RC2 SOCOM. So this thing is absolutely a bomb. It's a tank. It's a 5.56 can. It's been around for like 20, 25 years, and it's just really good at flash reduction and also noise reduction as far as displacing your noise, so the enemy doesn't know where you're shooting from. So I really love that. It is a bit heavy, but it's a total vibe, and it's very clone correct. Not that I'm going for that. There's a lot of things on here that aren't clone correct. And the Geissele also comes with their Surefire 4-prong flash hider. Yes, it does have the ping. There you go. Let me put it up to my mic so you can hear it. Yeah, it's got the ping. Does it annoy you? Yeah, it's annoying, but if you can hear that, you're not shooting fast enough, so just shoot faster. All jokes aside, but yeah, it's pretty badass. I like it. It works great as a flash hider, and the gun doesn't have enough recoil to really need a break. So when you're shooting it without the suppressor as well, it shoots phenomenal. It cycles fine, all that good stuff. It does shoot about 3 to 4 o'clock, like perfect without the suppressor. With the suppressor, it bumps up to about 3 to 2 o'clock, kind of in between that, a little bit over gassed area. But again, it's a duty rifle. It's a clone correct rifle, so it's going to be a little bit over gassed. Now it is the Geissele barrel, but they are Cold Hammer forged, chrome lined. I love Geissele. I know a lot of people think Geissele's overrated or whatever, but I really like Geissele. I think that they put out really quality products. For me, they're kind of the benchmark as far as quality goes. And again, I know there's probably nicer or higher end companies, but I'm not going for the foo-foo stuff. I want stuff that's going to work, that's affordable, that's also really well machined and really well QC'd. So I feel that way. I have that confidence in Geissele. And by the way, I paid for this upper receiver myself. So 100% paid for it. I did get a coupon code from Geissele for it, which was I think 20% off. But again, I paid a lot of money for it. It was still like $1,150, $1,200 after tax and shipping. So it's not like I got it for free by any means. So I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel about it, which is I love it. Pin gas block, I love that. I know it's probably not necessary. Again, like if your gas block's getting hit that hard, like your rail is probably fucked. There's probably bigger issues. The barrel's probably bent at that point. But still, I like the fact that you have a pin gas block. It's just never going to come rotate out of place and cause issues and malfunctions. So I love that. It's got the Geissele Mark 16 rail. The clone correct one also has the NSN numbers on the left-hand side over here facing me. If that's important to you. If it's not, then do your research. Maybe the Super Duty. I think the Super Duty is the exact same thing. It's just without the NSN numbers and without the pinned or without the Surefire. I'm not sure about that. So again, do your own research. But it's got 2 QD cups here for your slings on both sides, on the top left and the top right. They are not steel reinforced. I would have liked to see those steel reinforced. I've seen a lot of the new Geissele rails do have a steel reinforcement cup in there. I don't know when they made that change, but I would have loved to have one of those rails, honestly. On that rail, we have the Samson Manufacturing VFG. This is their shorty in grenade and FDE. Love this thing. They did send this to me for free, but I don't make any money off you guys buying these. Although they did give me a discount code. It's RDB10, so it saves you guys 10% off over at Samson Manufacturing. Again, not making any money off that, but it saves you guys some money, and I love these things. So I'm trying to get them on all my rifles. We have some rail scales up here in the front just to get a little extra grip. I am running a Surefire. This is the MD640 dual fuel with just a tail cap on here. I used to have the Vampire on here. I'll probably switch the Vampire back and forth from the Sig Spear LT 11.5 to this, just depending on what I'm running for night vision. But this has the Kinetic Development Group little mount here. Again, full disclosure, KDG did send me this mount, but it's pretty cool. Would I hang off of a building by this mount alone? No, I wouldn't, but I do trust it for like a flashlight, things like this, especially because flashlights are so expensive. And depending on what gun I'm running and what class and what situation, I like to be able to move it around, and most of my guns are M-LOK. So that's cool. We have a Magpul backup iron sight in the front, MBUS Pro. Ignorantly expensive. I actually hate Magpul for that reason, but they're quality, so whatever. Moving back from there, Blue Force Gear, Vickers Sling, free Larry Vickers, free CRS firearms. And then just a pick section here for my tripod. And then I have a Nightforce Attacker 1-8. Absolutely love this scope. There's nothing bad I can say about it. It was sent to me by Brownell, so again, big shout out to Brownells. But that wouldn't change how I would review it. It's a phenomenal scope. It's probably the best glass that I own up until I bought this Nightforce Attacker from Euro Optic. So a big shout out to Euro Optic for giving me a small discount on this very expensive scope. Again, small discount, but I'll take what I can get to bring you guys more reviews. This is going to be going on the HKMR 762. It's going to be my DMR. This is the 4-20 Attacker with the Horus Tremor 3 reticle. Super excited about this, but that's getting a little off topic. Let's get back to the Nightforce. So again, a 1 to 8 on a 14.5. It's going to give me the ability to glass out ID targets. People say, oh, what do you need an 8X on a 14.5? I've shot this thing out to 700 yards accurately. And by accurately, I mean like 8 out of 10 hits on a man-sized target. That's pretty darn accurate to me. Obviously, target's not moving. Guys, oh yeah, shoot it up. But let's talk about realistic standards here. People are training on stagnant targets. Not everyone has a place they can go. Most people, I'd say 99% of people, never been to a place where they can shoot moving targets. Although I'd love to go to one of those places. But yeah, 700 yards, stagnant targets, probably 14 inches, 16 inches by 24 inches. So human torso, just a standard target with a 1 to 8 and a 14.5. Pretty badass. Sitting in a Badger Condition 1 mount with the top mounted RMR for my passive aiming purposes. And yeah, I really love this mount. It's a 1.7 inch height. I know some of the guys were asking about the differences between a 1.5, 1.7s, and all that stuff with American Defense mounts. I prefer 1.7s on LPVOs on a flat top AR receiver, and I like 193s for my red dots, EOTechs, things like that. And then for like a long range gun, I prefer a 1.5. For those of you who are wondering, I am running some 100 Concepts ARDs, anti-reflective devices on here. So I have the Scope Cap Pro on the Nightforce Attacker here, as you can see, and it's pretty nice. I like that you can pull it off the side, or if you want the most light transparency, you can just pull it off completely, which is pretty cool. And then the ARD up here on the RMR as well. I watched a couple videos and heard from a couple guys who did some real world shit. They recommend the ARDs. So I think they look cool, obviously, but they do have a function as well. Just have the Tenebrex cap on the rear of the Nightforce. We are running the Geissele airborne charging handle. This charging handle is the one that comes with this upper receiver, has its NSN number on the back. So super kind of streamlined charging handle. It is a little bit tough to get in there and under that when you have a big old optic on there. So I'm kind of really having to reach under there a little bit, but it's still doable. It's not the end of the world. Just practice your weapon and manipulation. So going to the lower receiver, we talked about it a little bit. We have a Geissele Super Dynamic 3-gun trigger in here. So single stage trigger, about a 4.5 pound, 3.5 pound to 4.5 pound break. We have the Geissele Maritime bolt catch over here and bolt release. I love this thing. Obviously aesthetically it looks amazing, but it also has great function. Radian selector on the 45 with the long guy on the right side and the short guy on the left. Sorry, other way around. Long guy on the left so I can reach it with my thumb, my shooting hand thumb, and then the short guy on the right. And then Geissele Super 42 buffer wire, braided buffer wire in here, and their weight, and that came with the upper receiver group. And then Magpul K2 Plus grip, so it's that rubberized one. I took it off my HK. I don't typically buy these rubberized grips, but I had it, so I like it. It's growing on me a little bit. And then a BCM gunfighter stock. That's what I was trying to say. Again, Daniel Defense lower. Don't know who makes the buffer tube. Yeah, mostly mil-spec stuff. Now, is this completely clone correct? No, it's not. It's not trying to be clone correct, but I do think it is probably the most versatile rifle in my collection. I was going to do a video, and I probably still will, about if I had to just grab one gun. You know, guys always comment in the comment section like, hey, if you had to, they see the wall behind me, like, if you had to grab one gun, what would it be? It'd probably be this gun because it is 5.56, so I'm going to have magazines and ammo all across the country and with whoever I'm running with. And then on top of that, I just have a really versatile weapon platform where I can go from up close and personal out to ranges of 500, 600, 700 yards even, while remaining pretty lightweight and pretty maneuverable. So with this type of optic setup, obviously we have some really nice glass on here. You know, not everybody's going to be able to afford Nightforce glass, but there's a ton of really good options out there for good LPVOs. The Credo is one of them, the Trijicon Credo. I have that on the Scar 17 back there. I have the 1 to 8. They now just came out with a 1 to 10. Also, EOTech makes a 1 to 10 that's up there on the HK MR556. Those are cheaper options. You know, this optic's closer to $3,000. Those are more in the ballpark of 14 to 1,600 bucks. So yeah, I mean, it's just some good glass, a decent rifle. Like, the rifle doesn't need to be anything special. Like I said, the best rifle you have is the one that you have right now that you can train with. You don't need to go out and buy this. But for those guys who are wondering, who asked for my opinion, friends and family, and hopefully some of you guys get some value out of this, this is my recommendation. And this is the gun that I would probably grab in any one situation. If I just had one option to take with me, unknown mission, I guess you could say, I would grab this because all of these are just tools. And if I was going to shoot long range, you bet your ass I'm going to be grabbing this HK MR762 and I'm going to be throwing that Night Force, that 4 to 20 on there. If I know I'm going to have to engage targets out to 6, 7, 800 yards, probably going to leave this at home because I got better options for that. I got better tools for that job. But if it's an unknown, if it's an unknown mission per se, then yeah, I'm probably grabbing this rifle. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Would you guys agree with this? Would you disagree? What rifle would you grab for an unknown scenario, for unknown length of time and unknown country? Even I guess that spices it up a little bit more. But we live in America, so I'm obviously probably here in America. Leave that as part of the scenario, but it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't really matter what the scenario is, what the mission is. Whatever rifle you have, just train with it. Train your outer limits. Like I've taken that 11.5 out to 500, 600 yards. Just know what you can do because life isn't clean. It's not always black and white. So you're going to be put in situations where you may need to take a longer shot, or you may need to run through and clear a building to get to a vantage point, a lookout point. And you're probably going to need to be in physical shape no matter what gun you choose. So make sure you're taking care of your health, drinking a lot of water, guys. Just love your neighbor. Just forgive and forget. It's better for you in the long run. And yeah, just Christ is King. That's it, guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you soon.